600 stores, including Yankee Stadium. People are doing this all the day. We have a joke internally, we call it the 100 Club. There's a whole group of people who at 100 don't know what the hell to do with life that makes it special, so they go skydiving. Thank God none of them have ever died. Okay? Skydiving is apparently much safer than we think very generally, but for this group, they're very special. But here's the point. People are living and are doing it and are using their senses. And that's really the way we have to do it. So if you take a look at it from 0 to 100, you have to map it out differently. Let's go second part. Let's just take a look at some people, okay? I just brought in some numbers because I wanted to bring in some statistics to give it to you. So if you take somebody like Steve Martin at 67, he had his first kid. If you take a look at George Lucas, he had his at 69. Mick Jagger had his second kid from the second marriage at 75. Charlie Chaplin had his 13th kid at 73. Died at 88. Okay? So what I'm saying is this bullshit about the fact that you have to go to school. Let me finish. You have to go to school, finish your school by age 20, 21, 22, and maybe you do your graduate degree right after that, and then you're going to work for 40 years, or some unit like that, and then what you're going to do is be able to collect some kind of retirement money and use your savings and have a couple of golden years, which end when you're dead at 70. This isn't true anymore. So why don't we accept that as our language?
That word's no longer. Golden years.
That's garbage. It's gone. It's over, just like everything. So we need to change the myths, okay? We can't just have it be realistic and backlash against it. We have to actually go through the process of asking the question, what can be a new language? So it has to do with changes in families. It has to do with careers. Think of what AARP and Encore.org does. When you finish your career, you get a second career. Bullshit! What's the name of this book?
Becoming Brilliant.
Becoming Brilliant. You know what they talk about in Becoming Brilliant? The fact of the matter is, this is about child rearing. Two experts in the world about child rearing, because that's where my specialty came from. Okay, I did the first national study of the need for handicapped children to Head Start services. So this is an area of personal interest that I focus on. Their statement is today, an average child should know he'll have 10 careers. We only say 5 at age breakup. But that's the point. You could start a career at any time you want. The Kaufman Foundation says the single biggest group generates new businesses, not millennials. They don't have the money, they don't have the time, they're paying it off, etc. It's older people, okay? Because the answer is they have the expertise, they have the time, etc. We call them at Age Brilliantly share Xers. You are all share Xers. You share your expertise and your experiences. The problem is we're not getting that message across. So when you hear about all the people saying we have to find jobs, are they good jobs? Are they ones that use your experience, that use your expertise? Most of them aren't, because they're still buying into the old myth. It's our job to change it. That question.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think Saul Bellow had his last child at 82.
Okay, thank you for adding one. I love that. Okay, well remember that. Saul Bellow, 82.
Oh, my diaphragm.
Collectively.
Okay, so this is what we're trying to do. So we're looking at it changes our whole concept of careers. We can have multiple. You don't stop now. You go again to AARP's literature and you look at what Richard Light, who's phenomenal, has done. He says, take a look back what you did when you were 18 and you didn't do it. Why does he get that from? Grandma Moses. She wanted to be a painter. Dad said, no, you got to do something to pay for yourself. So she became a teacher and didn't like her job. And when time was available for her to do something, he said, what do I do? And she said, get the Encore job. Go back to what you did. You wanted to be a painter. You never did it, did it. Nothing wrong with that. Except in a world of today with technology, with education, with travel, with learning opportunity, a million other things you can do. Why restrict yourself? No reason for it. That's what we're trying to get people to understand. So we look at it, we look at jobs. So here's an example of the importance of understanding this stuff. BMW, big company, about 5 years ago, the funny part is this is not my Psychology of Aging textbook, and I always have to tell it. It's in a strategy book. It's talking about the fact that they're looking at their company, and they're doing an objective analysis, and they've got 3 plants, A, B, and C, and B has a slightly lower productivity rate. It's about 2% lower. So they ask, what's different about B than A and C? And they go look at it and they come up, oh, we have older workers. So under our stereotypes that we all like, we should be getting rid of these older workers. But BMW is smarter than that. They said, why don't we go find out from them what would make them feel comfortable doing what they do? And for $50,000 in a plant, they figure out how to change the lighting, how to create ergonomic chairs, a whole lot of little stuff. For the next 3 years, it's the single most productive plant. And, just to show you the importance of it, because could be another variable in there, they recently opened up a plant in the United States. Guess which one they copied? Okay, so we can restructure jobs. We can do anything we want to if we want to try to do that. Living arrangements, okay? You know, last night one of my students said, well, when you get old, you go to a nursing home. And I said, wait a minute. There's a whole range. We've been doing this how many times? 4, right? That's right. 4 times I've gone through this, okay? How you go from living in your own home to a whole lot of stuff to maybe dementia care, okay? And what are these steps in between? But again, my students slip because they're not normal people. They're in a normal environment doing the normal stuff we're all doing. So we have to take a look at how they're changing. And the beautiful part about it is they change any way we want to. In China, a group of insurance companies have pulled together $10 billion to build this gigantic, beautiful complex of houses with every amenity you could imagine in it, to be able to sell to older people. And by the way, they have mandatory retirement ages there. And here's the interesting part. How do they fund it? You can only get in if you put yourself a $300,000 insurance policy. Interesting. They came up with a way of helping people, making money, and doing it every way. That's the point. The only limits are our creativity. They figured that out. You look in New York, we have now a whole lot of communities, whether they're one building, series of buildings, Beacon Hill in Massachusetts. There's all lots of things happening all over the country. And it doesn't have to be like the villages in Florida, which is age segregated. Anything you want to. We now know that if you have intergenerational living, it is better for both generations. We call that wisdom transfer. Okay, it's a process of sharing wisdom back and forth, and it's an important part. Well, we find that is in how people live. We're also finding that in work. In September, Age Brilliantly is going to introduce its corporate division, working with corporations to understand that today we have 5, for the first time in history, we have 5 generations of the workforce. How do you maximize that? And the problem with all of the obsolete stereotypes is we restrict people because people don't get it. So for example, going back to jobs. You work for a company and you've decided you do want to leave. There's nothing wrong with quitting. I know people who quit at 28. What do you do when you made $100 million? You sold your company for $100 million, you don't need to work anymore, okay? I don't think he thinks of that as retirement as we do, but he said taking off for a couple of years. That's our whole point we're going to get to in a minute. But the answer is, so what they do is they're looking at how do we do it. So what happens if someone's 64, 65, and the HR says to you, so, do you want to stay in the company? Are you retiring? What are you planning to do? And so many years ago, over 15 years ago, this was happening in the federal government, and they were coming up with a system to help them, and somebody came up with this great concept called phased retirement. So you might say, you know what I want to do? Over the next 5 years, I want to phase out of work. 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. Sounds like a great plan, right? It failed. Why did it fail? Well, here's 2 answers. One is because people don't think and ask about the stereotypes. Their answer was it's obviously a bad system. Had nothing to do with that. The federal government has a pension, which, by the way, most private companies don't have it anymore. We all have 401ks. So the answer is, in a pension plan, your definition of what you're going to get paid is how much you made on average in the last 5 years. So if I stay in that, and every year I've made less money, I'm screwing myself for 30 more years, or as we translated it Age Brilliantly, 10,000 plus days? What the hell am I going to do during that? Why would I take less money? So it doesn't work. But private sector, Steelcase, other companies are beginning to ask this question. How do we create a policy to do that? How do we get older people to do it? How many of you saw the movie The Intern?
Oh, I did.
Okay,
No,
so
you-
for those people who saw The Intern, it's one of my bugaboos, because the answer is it's a shame, that movie. It's an absolute crime and a shame. The major accomplishment that they celebrate for the hero, who's Robert De Niro, who's playing a a retired person, close to 70, who's now part of an intern program for these people. That's where ShareX came from, studying what happened there. And his major accomplishments is, one is the millennials don't know how to clean up. They put everything on, remember, on the desk. And one day it's gone, and they go, what happened? What happened? He goes, he went in, he cleaned it up, he put it away. And what's his big job in the place? He's the chauffeur for the CEO. Okay, is that what we should be doing with people who, by the way, turned out to be the COO of the company that used to be in the building that this new tech company was in? Okay, turned out he'd been there all the time, okay? That's ridiculous. Let's give people meaningful jobs that they can do and use it well. That's what Age Brilliantly is all about, creating these kinds of opportunities. So we're doing that. Our care is changing. We are all part of the sandwich generation, like it or not. We are in that, and we make it think like a retirement, that's special. No, that's the way the world's going to be. And let's figure that one out. And to go back to your point, is what's changing is our whole concept of health, exercise, nutrition, taking care of ourselves. All of that stuff is changing our longevity significantly. There are 2 books out now that have studied a group of doctors who are actually finding when you use a regime for Alzheimer's, which is the most serious, it's reversible. Now, it's not scientifically proven yet. But from my point of view of understanding what we know about the neurology of the brain, it sounds like they figured out what was wrong. Every major pharmaceutical has thought it's one pill, you take it, it takes care of everything. One of them says it's 12 factors, one of them says it's 36 factors. I don't know what the right number is, and I don't really care. We're changing the way. And about a week ago, this is what I was talking about, what I teach. A week ago, the Alzheimer's Association came out with, we have to redefine what Alzheimer's is from symptoms to what the behaviors are, which we can relate to because we can watch what's happening in the brain. So we stand at a great time to change the way all of this stuff. There's no reason for it. Okay, so when we say someone will live to 150, with all the other stuff we do, people having hip replacements and other things, we can stay alive and healthier in a way we've never done it before. So what that means is, if we're going to go 0 to 100, there is a phenomenal set of opportunities for passion and purpose. And I want to give you the point that's really important about adding to your life. So here's an interesting statistic. Randy Cohen is a doctor who did a massive study, 136,000 men and women were studied. And what they asked them basically is a question, what is their sense of purpose? And we define purpose as things outside of ourselves, as opposed to passion, which is inside of ourselves. We feed our own passion, like I like to write, I like to play, I like to sing. But purpose is doing it for the world. It's making a difference on other people. So what he finds is, they looked at people, rating them on passion, purpose rather, in their lives and their work. And they found the following really interesting statistic. One, they had 23% lower mortality rate, plus more than 1 in 5. 19% fewer cardiovascular events. And then they found that having a sense of purpose, and I'm quoting now, adds up to 7 years to someone's life. Okay, that's why this stuff's important. Because it gives us a reason to get up in the morning. It gives us a purpose beyond living. That's what it's really all about. And why the earlier we do these kind of things, it's going to make sense. So what we need to do is figure out how to do that. So we can work. So I teach, as I said, the psychology of aging. And we nicknamed it, because when somebody was reviewing me and said, why do you do that? We call the course the interim report. And the reason we call it the interim report is all the textbooks are old. They're all dealing with old statistics that happened years ago that aren't true anymore. Once upon a time, it's true. Older people were let go and didn't want to work because that's what they were brainwashed to do. Guys were all brainwashed. And so with this brainwashing, that's what we were doing. But that doesn't have to be the way it is. It can be changed. Okay, and that's what our goal here is to start doing, is making the changes. So what happens is the current studies from Transamerica, from Merrill Lynch, from every one of these people who spends time doing the studies, is finding out that people today who are approaching the age which traditionally would retire, don't want to retire, the majority. They want to stay busy. Maybe they want the money, but maybe they just want to be busy. Maybe it's their sense of identity. It's the American culture. We don't take vacations and stuff like that. All of this is feeding into the same area, okay? So the answer is they want to do it. So ridiculousness, again, is the what comes out from, I call it, the industry. So Merrill Lynch did a study with Ageway, again, a great institution. And they came up with this mathematical equation. What people should do is plan to retire at 65, take 2 years off to figure out what they want to do for the next 10,000 days of their life, and then go back to work in 2 years. Why? Why would you want to waste it? That's such a precious time of your life. It's that much time to figure it out. Why didn't you think about it earlier? Think about it. We spend more time figuring out what high school we should go to, or what college we should go to, like there's that big a difference between all these colleges, than we do thinking about 30 years of our life. We don't spend time doing it because no one's told us, let's start planning. Let's come up with a way to do a plan, see it, get some feedback on other people, check how we are to other people, and relate. All stuff that we try to do at Ageway to create that. Learning, okay? Yeah, I don't want to sit down. And by the way, I did have someone like that. She's a 7-year-old retired lawyer, and she sat in my class. She said, can I audit it? And I said, absolutely. Okay? But the answer is maybe I don't want to be around millennials, but you don't have to. Today you can do online learning, MOOCs. You can get Harvard quality, Yale, Stanford teachers for literally for free if you're not looking for the credits, online. You can become part of Rhodes Scholar and travel around the world and travel and learn, make contributions, you know, Habitat for Housing. All these kinds of things are out there. So many opportunities for us to do things, whatever we want to do. We just got to stop thinking backwards. We got to move forward, which is why our new roles are really twofold. We need to live long, prosper for those of us Star Trek people, okay? That's what we have to do. We have to live long and prosper. But the most important thing is we have to understand our job's to be a role model. We're not the victims of this retirement age that was set up almost 100 years ago. We're the people who are going to show our kids and our grandkids what it's all about. And I know because I've got 3 boys, okay? And we have these arguments all the time. And they're learning because I'm trying to be the role model to show it to them. I believe Wayne Gretzky. Does anyone know who that was?
Hockey?
Wayne Gretzky.
Hockey.
Hockey, right. He's the best hockey player, I don't know much about hockey. Best hockey player that ever lived. And the reason somebody asked him once, why is it you score more goals than anyone else? He says, because everybody else goes to where the puck is. I go where the puck's going to be. And so what I'm challenging you today is to stop telling me what's life is like now. Look at that, whatever, 10,000 days in front of you, and ask, where are you going? And where are you going for yourself? Inspire yourself. Inspire your kids. In my case, that's what I have. I don't have grandchildren, but I would be damn sure that's what I'm thinking about. I want them to start off and saying, you know what? I can live to 100 plus, and guess what? I can do anything I want to. So one of the concepts we've come up is a concept called, again, changing language. I'm just going to switch for a second. First time we're introducing this one, right? We did a blog on this, well, that's 6 months ago, but I haven't done it. We don't believe that people should go life and have gap years. Not because people don't need a break from what they're doing, but a gap is a space. It's a missing area. It's useless. Sabbaticals mean take time off from doing something. Garbage. What we should have is growth. Growth time. What does growth stand for? Goal reorientation. The hell do I want to do? Change my orientation with time for health and happiness. And we could do that, again, through all 10 careers. We could do that at any time we want to in our life. Because what's going to happen is we can change what we're doing and just do it in a different way that we want to do it. And so when one of my kids came to me and said, you know, I want to take time off. Think of Israel. Israel, every kid at 18 has to go in the army. They serve a minimum of 3 years. And then what does most of them do? They travel around the world for a year. They go to different countries. They see different things. Wow, that's interesting because you know that's the #2 country in the world when it comes to tech startups. Because they've learned how to use things, they get perspective, and they've not abilities. They've learned how to use their creative adventure. Okay? So it's there, the proof is there. We can do all of this if we're willing to just change our frame of reference. So we can live a passionate and purposeful life if we figure out what is that and how do we do that. And what I argue is you have to look forward, see what the opportunities are. You have to then look backwards. Is this consistent with who I am? Is it my personality? So, for example, you know, if you don't like to speak, don't speak. If you like to write, write. Whatever it is you like to do, it tells you something about your skill and your activity, and then go forward again. What can I do? Go forward. Get